Assalamu alaikum, conscious entrepreneurs, and welcome to the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad channel. In tonight's episode, we will explore what is going on in the economies on the African continent. Let's start thinking like global citizens. So sit back, relax. We'll be back. I'll give y'all time to get in the room. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Make this go viral. Go tell a friend, and we'll be right back.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Wishing you all lots of peace and love. Thank you for tuning in. I know you have so many things to do, and I appreciate that you show the channel love and support. I do my best to bring you some free game. You got to put the game out there, and that's the idea for me. I give away the game because so many times people play games with us by withholding the game. And that's not what we do here on this channel. So sometimes folks don't like it. Sometimes the algorithm ain't happy about it. So we need you all to help us go viral. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Share the content with people. I try to post it up on Facebook and Instagram, as well as TikTok and X. So, go out, and LinkedIn, go out there and share it. Because we're giving away free game. We are living in a world right now where we're always subject to somebody else's game. Somebody's always giving us some instructions on what to do so that we can make money for them, help them get more commission, help them make more money, make more revenue. It's all about how can I manipulate the next person to get whatever it is that I want. And I'm saying that we don't have to be that way. We can be conscious entrepreneurs. So I just don't think we have to be that way. That's just my thought. Okay. Real quick before I jump in the subject, tomorrow at 6 a.m. Central Time, and then Saturday, 6 a.m. Central Time, we're going to have the Sajdah Morning Coffee Talk. And we're going to talk about some subjects that, and you all know I do this, that have popped up in some of my coaching sessions. One thing we're going to talk about tomorrow morning is helping you gain awareness on how you see the future. I was talking to a coaching client, and after we started talking, she began to realize that she was very pessimistic about the future. And that was making it difficult for her, or creating an impediment when it came to her writing down her goals. And just really moving forward without fear. And so I thought, you know what, we got to talk about that. We got to really dig into that, because she's not the only person that I've heard say things like the world is over and it's ending and we're done. And I don't know if we are really clear on how that impacts us when it comes to planning for our future, when it comes to moving forward. Okay. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow on the Morning Coffee Talk. And then we're going to move into Saturday morning, and we're going to talk about safety. Do you feel safe physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally? And we're going to talk about and encourage us to create safe spaces for one another. That's a powerful subject. And leading into our conversation tonight about the African continent, a friend of mine in Africa said to me, he said, remember when you would come to Africa and you talked about how your central nervous system seemed to just level out. And he said, the thing about America is that you guys never feel safe. And I was like, whoa. And so I said, you know what, let's explore that. Let's talk about that. So we're going to talk about that. I'm holding a commemorative Elijah coin. If you don't have your commemorative Elijah coin, I'm asking you all to please go to, you see it scrolled across the bottom, supportsajdahhouse.com. Follow the instructions so you can get your commemorative Elijah coin. These coins are made of copper from the home, and they help us on our march towards completion. And I'm going to make an announcement relatively soon about what we believe is going to happen relatively soon about our opening and things like that. So get your coin, stay tuned. Make sure you give a love offering. I have that going across the bottom. I try to give you all lots of information. I don't ask for anything. The seat is free. So you got your button, the seat for free. Give a little love offering. So either hit the super chat button down here or just go to Cash App, $ Sajdah Enterprises, and give a love offering. So tonight we are talking about African economic news. And I'm working on just a download of a show that we may have coming on every week, just talking about world economic news in general, because I think it's so important that we learn to become global citizens and have a global perspective when it comes to business and the economy. Part of a lot of our problems and the reason why we don't understand things that we see happening here in the US, and the reason why it's difficult for us to pivot oftentimes, is because we're very laser focused into this small little economic microcosm. And one of the ways that I think we can begin this process is to make ourselves aware of what is happening around the world. Okay. You all know that I'm an international business and real estate professional. I'm very proud and honored to be that, because it's something that I wanted to be my entire life, was to have an international focus, an international footprint. I'm an artist. Business is my canvas. And I just really like to think of myself as a manifester, a powerful manifester, somebody who is studying all the time metaphysics and working on becoming a god. So anyway, welcome to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show. And as I mentioned, my goal is to help us get in front of some checks, solve some problems, take our lives to the next level, help us to discover and preserve our history, and really align ourselves with what we showed up on the planet to do. And my foundation for doing that is alignment with Almighty God, Allah. I also love helping us to discover, own, and monetize our history, our authenticity, and our talents. Because I believe that when we're able to do that, we are on the road to freedom. We are on the road to learning and discovering ourselves. I just like helping people to solve problems. Economic development and economic freedom is very important to me. It's time. So one of my goals, as I mentioned, is to help us to become global citizens. And we often exist here in the US in this little bubble and forget to ensure that not only are we thinking globally, but can our children compete globally? I see y'all over here in the chat. I see Sandra D. She says, Assalamu alaikum. Family, happy, blessed every day. I see Sister Aletha says, Assalamu alaikum, family, peace and blessings to the room. I see Timestamp Amy tapping in and a bunch of y'all being shy. Okay, I see this. It's always funny to me when I look up here and I see how YouTube's like, oh, you got like one person watching, and then StreamYard says, no, there's 127. Anyway, this is why I tell y'all, like and subscribe, repost these shows, share. We have to make this go viral the old-fashioned way, because what I find is that people who get online or on podcasts and they say things that are, in my opinion, controversial, like highly sexually motivated or even politically motivated stuff, that stuff gets shared and the algorithm picks it up and you see them with lots of watches. And then I make a show about making big decisions and they tell me that I violate community guidelines. Well, why do I violate community guidelines? Because I'm giving away free game and among other things. Okay. All right. So you know what, you guys, this was a really difficult show to put together. Because when you start thinking about Africa, there's so much misinformation and way too much generalization. First of all, we have to remember that Africa is a continent, to be compared to North America or South America. But sometimes they compare Africa, the continent, to the United States of America, the country. The continent of Africa is like 3 to 4 times the size of Europe. The other piece of it is that one of the things I cannot stand is this sort of black and white way we look at everything now in the world. There's good and bad everywhere. Some of y'all live in Cleveland. There's good stuff happening in Cleveland, and there's bad stuff in Cleveland. Here in Chicago, there's good stuff and bad stuff. Memphis, good stuff, bad stuff. LA, good stuff, bad stuff. Even within cultures and religion, there's good people and bad people. But there's just a tendency to take some piece of propaganda and tie it either to an entire city or an entire country or an entire continent or an entire group of people. It's just a really skewed way of doing things, and it just is not mathematically sound. So if you catch yourself doing that because it's so common now in pop culture, stop yourself. Okay. And that's why it was hard putting this together, because I'm seeing all these generalities and I say, you know what? Let's pull back big picture. Okay. Africa is vastly diverse. There are 54 countries in Africa, on the continent of Africa, about 1.5 billion people, many religions, many languages, many ethnic groups, many cultures. And in cultures where you have large families and dependency ratios are higher, then the economics are judged differently. See, European and Chinese or Asian economic models work best when each working person has less dependence, which encourages people to have fewer dependents. That includes children and elderly. But what this does is it erodes the family structure. It erodes the village structure. And this is contraindicated to the indigenous cultures on the continent. So my thought is that a model that doesn't erode the family community structure is better suited to support the ongoing concern of the many cultures on the continent, as opposed to imposing complex family planning models, where like you should only have 1 or 2 children. I believe the incorrect economic assumption is that people who have more children are less educated. So the push to educate women and children often comes with the social pressures to become less family oriented. So oftentimes as women, the more successful we are, the more alone we are, the less number of children we have, the less people we have around us. And so we have to actually orchestrate community into our lives. I just believe this is all done on purpose. So one could say that all the rifts between male and females within our community, in my opinion, have an economic impact. They have a community impact and may very well be orchestrated by those that control economic indicators of every country, because dependency ratios is one of the key economic indicators. Okay, that's a whole nother show in and of itself that we should do. I want to begin by showing us a video. Okay, there's a channel called The African Insider, and they offer some visual views of the top 10 African economies. And these visuals are very important for us here in the West so that we can understand that Africa is not what is often portrayed in the news. Don't get me wrong, there's good and bad everywhere. So just like here in Chicago, you can portray Chicago by driving down Madison Street and going all the way west, or driving down Cottage Grove and going all the way south, or you can go down to the Gold Coast. It just depends, okay? But unfortunately for many countries on the continent of Africa, we just get one side. And many people are shocked to see the diversity in Africa. And I just want to begin to pique our interest and kind of raise our awareness a little bit on this, okay? We're talking 54 different countries, 54 different economies. And also we have to remember, one of the biggest challenges in Africa is the fact that the colonizers went in and carved up Africa. So you may have 2 countries next door to each other, just like Illinois and Iowa, but they can't do business with each other because they're on different systems, different languages, different currencies. This is also part of the challenge. Now, let me say this. The person that did this video is using data that GDP data that probably was published publicly somewhere. So there's a few discrepancies, but the important thing here is for you to begin visualizing the continent of Africa. So welcome, Sister Cynthia. I just wanted to welcome you. So sit back and just check this out. I cannot wait to start again putting together some business tours and trade missions on the continent of Africa. I decided that I'm going to start doing that. And hopefully, inshallah, we can start as early as next year, where we actually go on trade missions. And these will be for conscious entrepreneurs only. You know, if you're going over there trying to scam, trying to see if you can open up a strip club and all of this stuff. And let me say this. I heard that, so let me say it this way. The country of Ghana in sub-Saharan West Africa has been very welcoming to us as Black people in the diaspora, okay? And I heard that people are going there trying to figure out how they can open up strip clubs and bring some ratchetness to the country. And I just want to say to us, please be conscious and please do not do that. When you do something like that, let's say you open a strip club in Accra, and Accra is a metropolitan area. Let's say it's like being in metropolitan Chicago. But you may have people that live out in the country or out in the village, and they may not make $1,000 a year. Now, I'm not talking about the professionals that work in tech and many of the different sectors in the city. They may not make $1,000 a year out in the country. It's like if you go to some parts of Alabama and Mississippi, I was just learning that they can't even get CAT scans and MRIs. So think of it like that. And then you say that there's an opportunity to go to town in Accra, work as a stripper, and you can make $1,000 a night. Do you know what you will do in terms of disrupting the morale? So I would just say, don't do that. We have to go to Africa being leaders. We can't go there with the same ratchetness that we're trying to get away from. We got to go there as conscious, moral people, regardless of what your religion is. You got to go there with being responsible, being educated, and not participating in some of that drama. We saw that happen in Liberia. When Liberia was created, it was supposed to be for freed slaves. And then these freedmen's people went over there with this Jim Crow mess, this Willie Lynch stuff. And now you got the lights against the darks. You got the indigenous Liberians versus the Americo-Liberians. And we brought all this mess and drama and this psychological trauma from the United States right over there and ruined a beautiful opportunity. Let's not make that mistake again. So while we're running to Senegal and while we're running to Accra, and while we're running to all these places, let's not take our ratchetness with us. So these trade missions I'm talking about will be for conscious entrepreneurs. It don't mean we're not going to have fun. It don't mean we're not going to have adventures. It doesn't mean that we are not going to be real people. But in terms of monetizing ratchetness and raping and pillaging, just like this wicked demon over here in the United States does to many of our communities, missing girls, sex trafficking. This is happening right now in modern day America in many of our communities. Many of us know people, I know people right now that have children that are missing, girls that are missing, people being raped, people being shot. Let's not go there with that. Anyway, we're going to watch this video, okay? Be mindful that some of the GDP numbers may be a little bit dated, but I want you to just pay attention to the landscape and start to Allow your mind to expand into the idea that Africa is not necessarily what you may have been taught. All right, so here we go. I'm going to take myself off the screen.
Welcome to African Insider. In today's video, we'll be exploring the top African GDP economies in 2024. Join us as we delve into the economic landscapes of the continent's leading nations, analyzing key factors driving their growth and development. Starting our list at position 10 is Ivory Coast, also known as Cote d'Ivoire, with a GDP of 79.4 billion US dollars as of the year 2024. The country boasts a robust GDP supported by a diverse economy comprising agriculture, manufacturing, and services, with cocoa production playing a significant role in its export revenue. Additionally, the government initiative to promote economic diversification and infrastructure development have further contributed to its GDP growth trajectory. At number 9, we have Tanzania with a GDP of 84 billion US dollars, which is a very huge jump from the previous 75 billion. And they're mostly involved in mining, where we have gold, diamonds, and gemstone. And then agriculture also plays a great role in their GDP. Tourism is also one of the top earner for Tanzania, with the national parks like Serengeti National Park and tourist attraction like the Zanzibar, Zanzibar, which is the island, and Mount Kilimanjaro. All those together have made Tanzania the 9th largest GDP economy on the continent. And our position 8, we have Angola with a GDP of 93.8 billion US dollars as of the year 2024, or the beginning of 2024. And when you talk of Angola, you always know that it's oil wealth. Angola is a major oil exporter, with Angola's economy heavily relying on oil revenue. The economic challenges they have is the post-civil war reconstruction and diversification efforts that are taking place in Angola. For our position 7, we have Kenya with a GDP of 112.7 billion US dollars. Kenya's GDP economy showcases a diverse mix of sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, services, and tourism, with notable growth in information technology and financial services in the recent years. M-Pesa, the mobile money revolution that started in Kenya. And also, don't forget government-led infrastructure projects like the Kenya's Standard Gauge Railway and other initiatives that have led to boost entrepreneurship, innovation, and basically boosted their GDP growth in recent years. And for number 6, we have Morocco with a GDP of 147.3 billion US dollars. And just like Kenya, Morocco's GDP economy is characterized by a diverse mix of sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, services, and tourism, with the latter, the tourism, being a key driver of economic activity and employment in Morocco. Government-led reforms and strategic investments in infrastructure and renewable energy have further bolstered Morocco's position as a regional economic hub. At position 5, we have Ethiopia with a GDP of 155.8 billion US dollars. How Ethiopia jumped both Kenya and Morocco is a story for another day, but the Ethiopian GDP economy is primarily driven by agriculture, manufacturing, and services, with agriculture employing a significant portion of the population and contributing substantially to the export earnings of Ethiopia. Now, the other key sector is the government-led industrialization, and particularly the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that has contributed to their GDP hitting 155 billion. As we head to position 4, the margin between the previous number 5 and the further one widens with more than $100 billion. And at position 4, we have Algeria with a GDP of $267.7 billion US dollars. Algeria's GDP economy relies heavily on hydrocarbon exports, particularly oil and natural gas, which constitute the majority of its export revenue and government income. Efforts to diversify the economy into sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and renewable energy are still ongoing. But also, don't forget that the war in Ukraine bolstered the Algerian GDP growth as more European countries started buying gas from Algeria. Now, on to position 3. For position 3, you're going to see also a huge margin in the GDP growth between 4 and 3. So we have South Africa with a GDP of 408.1 billion US dollars. And the country's GDP economy is diverse, encompassing sectors such as mining, manufacturing, agriculture, and services, with mining historically playing a significant role in export revenue for South Africa. Challenges such as high unemployment and inequality still persist in South Africa, but ongoing efforts to address structural reforms and promote investment aim to bolster the economic resilience and inclusive growth of South Africa. For position 2, which is a country I suspect you'd have guessed, is Egypt with a GDP of 476.8 billion US dollars. The country's GDP economy is multifaceted, with key sectors including tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and natural gas production contributing to its economic output and employment. Despite challenges such as political instability and infrastructure limitations, government reforms and investment initiatives aim to stimulate economic growth and diversification, positioning Egypt as a regional economic powerhouse. And lastly, our position 1, we have Nigeria with a GDP of 494.4 billion. That is 494.4 billion US dollars, which is a drop from the previous GDP of more than 500 billion US dollars. Nigeria's GDP economy is primarily driven by oil production, which historically has been the main source of export revenue and government income, though efforts to diversify into sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and services are underway. Challenges such as corruption, insecurity, and infrastructure deficits still persist in Nigeria, but ongoing reforms and investment initiatives aim to foster sustainable economic growth and reduce dependency on oil in Nigeria, though I still doubt. But that's those efforts that are taking place.
All right. I hope you all enjoy that. We were having a little discussion in the chat. I'm working on a few things, and I'm hoping that by next year, I can put on my first economic trade mission to the continent of Africa. We've already made some contacts over there and got some other, I won't give away too much because y'all know how folks like to steal ideas. And yes, we are working on doing a business expo here in Chicago and in Houston. So stay tuned. But the trade mission, we're going to let some of this drama die down a little bit. But inshallah, we'll be able to get it ramped up next year, 2025. It's going to take about that amount of time for us to plan and to identify the conscious entrepreneurs who can go and are ready to go, because there's going to be an educational process that I want to take you all through before we go there. It took me about maybe about my fourth or fifth time on the continent to get it. And then I had to revisit some places more than once. Like I've been to South Africa a few times and to Nigeria. Once I kind of started to go, I began to understand. But it takes time because our brains have to be decolonized. We have to decolonize our tongues. We have to decolonize our emotions. We have to decolonize our way of thinking. And just going one time is not going to help to decolonize you. What I think will help, though, is some ongoing education up front. We're going to work very strongly with trade commissions, and I have some contacts there where we'll have meetings set up and businesses that will visit plants. I know people that have certain businesses that will be able to visit, and and all we're doing is expanding our mind and learning and educating. We're going to see the good and the bad, because here in the United States, obviously there's corruption. There's corruption in every country. Here it's a lot more, what they call it, covert. And then sometimes there you see it overtly. And so you're going to understand and get used to that. You also have to get used to the fact that we in the diaspora, many of us have a huge love affair with Africa. And so we think when we get there, somebody going to be there like, sister, welcome, and we're going to find that the responsibility as leaders will come crashing down on you the moment you get there. And it'll come crashing down on you, and it's going to show up as confusion, as a whole host of different emotions: confusion, sadness, excitement. We're going to help you partner. If you want to do business, partner with somebody so that you don't get over there and get scammed. Because a lot of us, all they got to do is make us a chief, give us an African name, and we about to give them all our savings. We're going to teach you how not to fall into that trap. But just in terms of showing you how to do business, and it's different with different countries. So what the hope is that we can hit a couple of countries, maybe 2 or 3, and just kind of see how things are done. And then you'll begin to see where you fit in. I'm going to tell you something else that's a whole total lie, is a lot of times when you trace your ancestry, I'm going to try my best to connect us with some genealogists over there. I did that when I was there, because when you trace your ancestry and you go through these services that we have here in America, what they do is they're comparing your DNA to a database. Okay. And the database will oftentimes say to you, you're from this region. They'll say this region that is now today called Benin, which obviously wasn't called Benin back in the day. Or they may say you're from, Guinea or wherever. They'll tell you you're from a region. Some will tell you a tribe, but the tribe is oftentimes based on geography, and a few other factors that are a little bit off. One of the things that I want to also help with these sessions that we're going to do, and we're going to start to talk about global economies. We're going to talk about the economy in Europe. We're going to talk about the economy in South America, different places, because I really want us to become global citizens. And I want us to stop thinking of ourselves in terms of age or ancestrally dating back just right before slavery or right at slavery. We are a very ancient people. We are so ancient that we were on the planet before those tribes even got a name. So when I did my genealogy, when I got to Africa, and we started with the region, and the genealogist said, I don't know that that's really a good way for you to look at it, because you're Fulani, and the Fulani are nomadic people. They're always walking. And I learned so much about the people that taught me a lot about myself. it kind of made me settle down about some things that even myself personally that I've been criticized about. Um, I like community. I like movement. I love traveling. I like walking. I like people. And so I understood that. I slid into being a Muslim like a well-made glove. But I came from that on both sides of my DNA, my maternal and paternal side. So it was just all very interesting and helping me to just kind of settle in to who and what I am. And when I started to then understand, like, okay, so let me see what these people, this particular tribe likes to do. Well, they like horses. Well, if you know anything about me, I love horses. Okay. They and so I was just a lot of things like that that you can learn. And so we'll do some of that, but also understanding trade and commerce and all of that. So we'll work on that. But we're gonna do some education. Okay. We don't want to sleep on South America and the indigenous history that is there, Central America and the indigenous history that is there. We just want to be global citizens because we are very, very, very ancient. And if we really understand who we are, then we understand that we have inhabited the entire planet and the entire universe. Did you know that there were pyramids all over Central and South America before the Catholic Church went in and Catholicized everybody? And they ended up tearing down the pyramids and building their churches on hills. I know y'all didn't know that. You can look that up. You can Google it. That's why if you travel a lot of times I remember being in Nicaragua and I remember seeing this church, Catholic church, just up on the hill, like in the middle of nowhere with a big old cross. And I said, why is that church just look so random? And they said, oh, that used to be a pyramid. And when the Vatican came in and took over, they got rid of the pyramid and built the church and planted the cross on the top of the pyramid. I was like, what? It was the first time I had heard that. That was in the 90s. I was in Bluefields, Nicaragua. I learned that then. And then in traveling to different places, I learned that that's what they did. So if you know anything about the pyramids, and we're not going to go all off into that. There's some other channels that you also should check out. I know 19 Keys talks about it oftentimes, and Billy Carson talks about it all the time. But if you know anything about pyramids and how they sit on in energy spaces and energy vortexes around the earth and connect to different energy points in the universe, then you got to think about, well, somebody built those. Somebody had to live there. Somebody had to know these higher forms of mathematics. And if we're ancient, we're definitely more than 6,000 years old. Who built it? Could it be you and I? So this is what we have to expand our mind to think about, right? This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted us to think about when we were told to study the measurements of the earth and study how far away we are from the sun, and study the sun, moon, and stars. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why we study high levels of mathematics. There's a reason why Mother Tanetta was always teaching us about crystals and utilizing elements from the earth that were made for us as tools. We just lost that knowledge. And so you're way more than a former African enslaved person. You were here way before that. Way before. We are the original man and woman, descendants of the Creator, believe it or not. So anyway, I wanted to take that time and take a minute to just raise our awareness about Africa. I hope that little video made you want to go and study. And I'm going to keep educating us and sharing so that when we take these trade missions, and look, hey, we may even do some virtual trade missions. I don't know, but we'll get creative, because we're going to make sure that our mind understands that we are not imprisoned here in the wilderness of North America. We are universal and global citizens. Yes, we are. And now the beautiful thing is, with the World Wide Web, we can make money anywhere around the world if we just learn to expand our mind. But we have to first free ourselves. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be as young as 10, 11 years old. You can be as old as 95 or 100. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. There's nothing that says, see, the colonized mindset that many of us have is a mindset based on rugged individualism. Before we showed the video, I talked about how Africa is not off as a continent, is not often judged as being able to be competitive in the future because of its dependency ratios. So Asian models like in China and places like other parts of Asia, they have less dependence. And so as an economic indicator, that means that your economic outlook is good, because that means that if one person is given a job, there's less mouths that one person has to feed. So it's based on somebody feeding you, and then how many people you got to feed with that money. Okay. That's why there used to be this thing in China where you could only have one child or 1 to 2 children. There's a thing in Korea where a lot of the young people are not having sex. They're not getting married because this mindset of teaching people that the less children you have, the better off you are, leads to this rugged individualism. And so the push becomes to educate more women, because if women are in the traditional workforce, then they can't have that many children. They will have less children. So instead of pushing women towards fields like, say, selling real estate or having a business online where you can literally have a family and be a businesswoman, the idea is for you to go and get your sustenance or your money from somebody else, to work, go get paid from somebody else. There's a certain amount of hours that you're required to give, which means there's less hours that you can give to your family. So families are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then there's these rifts that are created. Go back to Willie Lynch, between the male and the female. We see it so much in our community. So the more successful we are, especially as women, the less friends we have, the less likely we are to be married, the less likely we are to have children, the less likely we are to participate in community. And as we move forward, the less likely we are to have social skills, the more likely we are to be limited in the manner in which we can be successful. So once your thinking is warped like that, the best way for you to be successful is to fall into a system. So the idea of creating, building, developing, and freeing yourself so that you can have more relationships and you can ultimately live longer and live a more fulfilling life becomes less likely. It's all an orchestrated plan, y'all. So we have to do a better job at being intentional about connecting with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora and throughout the world. We have to be more intentional about having global relationships. Let me tell you something. I recognized this when I was 10 years old. I had a pen pal, no, younger than that. I think from maybe age 8 to about 15. Several pen pals. I had a pen pal in West Africa. I had one in the UAE, and we would just write letters. I get stamps, get my little envelope, and we write back and forth. And so my mind was not just restricted to the continent. But this is all, you guys, by design. So we have to be very intentional about having global friends. We have to be intentional about being community oriented. We should be focused on, people that we contact. We're going to talk a little bit about this on Saturday, about creating relationships with one another, having relationships with one another, because I'm telling you, we are changing and messing up our DNA with all this rugged individualism. So what do they tell us? Oh, well, you got to have the best house, the best this, the best that. So move as far out as you can. And next thing you know, you're out there, you're alone, you're by yourself. And what good is it? It doesn't matter. Community is everything, family. And we have to focus on getting back to community. Families have to be more intentional. A lot of us go years and years without ever seeing our family. Then we have this illusion that we got all this family and that everybody loves each other when we really don't, because we don't even see each other. We don't check on each other. We don't talk to each other. We don't even care about each other. But make it a point. Make it a point. I remember when my father passed and all the brothers and sisters, we all said, well, now it's all the brothers and one sister. I'm the only girl left. Wow. And we said, we're going to get together once a year. I think maybe we've done it once since 2009. Shame on us. So we just have to get better. Family reunions are important. Gatherings, documenting your history and connecting with people and being conscious when we're doing it. Don't connect with nobody globally that's on some ratchetness, that's on some old drama, some scam artists, some haterism. We're not about that. We're about being examples for others, for our children, for our family, and for other cultures of how to move throughout the world and be respectful and honorable and successful, and to represent the supreme wisdom that we have been given. That's real talk, y'all. It's about being an example. But we got to break out of this rugged individualism. We have to figure out how to do it. And I think here's the other thing. I'm going to say this before we go. The rugged individualism, everything being so black and white, it's either this or that, no gray matter, cancel culture. People don't get to redeem themselves. As soon as they make a mistake, we're dogging each other. This competition. I have friends that get on me and they say, you know what? You never talk about your accomplishments or what you've done. And I say, you know why I don't do it? Because people go crazy. People lose their mind. They say, well, you can't care about that. I literally, sometimes you just watch people. We can be so competitive, constantly comparing what her car looked like, what his car looked like, what her house looked like. And then we, all of a sudden we can't sleep at night because somebody got a better job or a better business or a better car, or it's just dumb. But these are all impediments that if we don't fix them, we're on the road to creating an extinct culture. We will be extinct. Our culture won't exist. You already got AI copying our culture. They already know how to dance and move like us. They can't create like us, but we'll talk about what's in the human DNA that AI cannot replicate. But you know, we circle in the drain, but we don't have to. We have a lifeline. We have supreme wisdom. We can do better. We will do better. And it don't take all of us. They say, what they say, one but 50,000 people that helped found America. We don't need that many of us. Each of our brains travel at the average rate of 24 billion miles per second, and some of our minds travel even faster. So, all right, that was just kind of our overview on Africa. I hope you learned something. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope it helped just to kind of get you to researching. I can't, spoon feed you everything, but hopefully I can wake you up and spark something inside of you. That's the goal. Okay. Tomorrow morning on Coffee Talks, 6 a.m. Central Time, we're going to talk about how we see the future. And we're going to raise our awareness and tweak our mindset just on how we see the future. Because did you know that many of us are so pessimistic about the future that we're really just waiting for the world to end, and we wonder why we cannot accomplish what we showed up on the planet to do. Many of us have goals and we have our mind going, and we want to do something. We want to do something more, but we cannot do it because we really just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I want to talk about that. What does that mean? How are we limiting ourselves when it comes to raising our children? How are we limiting ourselves when it comes to being creative? Some of us are just sitting around waiting to die. And in the meantime, we'll do a few things to have fun. Let's change the perspective a little bit. And then Saturday morning, we're going to talk about safety and learning how, that's right, Sister Audrey, doom and gloom mindset. I cannot stand it. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Then Saturday morning, we're going to talk about safety, emotional safety, physical safety, financial safety. But we're going to put a little bit different twist on it, because I want to ask each and every one of us, and I want to challenge us, how safe do we make it for others? Do we provide emotionally safe spaces for other people? Do we make it so that people feel financially safe? And this all came about because I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in Nigeria, and he went on this rant. He said, you all here over there in America, y'all never are safe. You're not safe when it comes to relationships. You're not safe financially. Somebody can always take what you got. You're not safe physically. And I just was like, well, damn. And then I thought about it and I said, you know what? That's kind of true. And then I tried to challenge him. I said, well, okay. I'll save it for Saturday. Okay, y'all. So I'll see you all. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. Please give a love offering. Go to Cash App, $. It's going across right there. Sajdah Enterprises. We don't charge for anything. I take care of the platform and all the subjects and everything. And I just want to feed and share with you. Look, y'all, I wish each and every one of you peace, which I believe is the greatest wish that any of us can wish upon one another. Peace, love, more goodness than you've ever experienced or imagined. And be it the will of Allah, inshallah, I will see you all tomorrow morning for Sajdah Morning Coffee Talks. See you all soon. And thank you so much. Thank you for your continued support. And thank you for chiming in. Peace and blessings.